podcast is the sole property of Proud Sports. Our thoughts and opinions are our own.
Yeah. They say I walk like a king, talk like a king. You can act around now, say the same thing. They chasing the fame, they all want the name. But they ain't got what's running through these veins. Say I walk like a king, talk like a king. You can act around now, say the same thing. They chasing the fame, they all want the name. But they ain't got what's running through these veins. Make way for the king.
It's another Proud Panthers podcast, and I'm Stephen Beck. Follow along with me on X anytime at Stephen Beck PS. Also, at Proud Panthers is the handle for this podcast, all about High Point University basketball. And we're with you as part of the Proud Sports family over on ProudSports.com. That's PROWLED sports.com. High Point basketball coming off of a 20-point win against Western Carolina yesterday evening inside the Cobain Center at High Point. And we're going to talk about that game today, including having exclusive words from head coach Flynn Clayman after that game. And all of that is coming up right after this.
High Point University, the premier life skills university, is ranked the #1 best-run college in America by the Princeton Review. Employers value HPU's real-world preparation. Students love unprecedented access to global leaders on High Point's inspiring campus. And parents appreciate HPU's God, family, and country values. Choose to be extraordinary at High Point University.
Wake up the Carolina way. Hi, this is Stephen Beck. Starting December 6th, join me for Waking Up Proud. We've got local eats, hot sport takes, and a whole lot of Triad and Carolina flavor. From barbecue debates to big game breakdowns, we've got your Saturday mornings covered. Wake up, chow down, and cheer on. Carolina mornings start here with Waking Up Proud. Saturday mornings, 9 to 11 on WSJS. The morning show that feels like home. This is the Proud Panthers podcast, and as I said before, my name is Steven. We're actually doing this one live on X and also on YouTube, which always allows you the opportunity to get involved with us. If you just reply on X or on YouTube, they actually pop up where you can give your comments, your feedback, your thoughts as part of this Proud Panthers episode that will also be out on all the streaming services as well that they normally are posted. If you just heard before, I'd also like to invite you as a listener to this. I hope you'll join me over at a new endeavor of mine. It's an exciting opportunity, one that we are looking forward to having a part of the Proud Sports family, and that is a show called Waking Up Proud, a new radio program. So not only are we going to have it streamed just like we have this podcast, but we're also going to be on, I believe it's 5 FM signals and 1 AM signal across our area here in North Carolina, High Point, Greensboro, and Winston-Salem. And that takes part every single Saturday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. on a signal called WSJS. And so we'll be having it posted on all of our handles and websites. You can follow along that way. But for those shows, they'll also be live. And we would encourage you to do the same. Post messages here on our feeds, or for that, you'll actually be able to call in and take part in the program. And so we look forward to having you be a part of the Waking Up Proud show on Saturday AMs, the first one coming up this Saturday from 9 till 11. As I said, though, our High Point Panthers defeated the Catamounts of Western Carolina at High Point yesterday by 20 points, 93-73 final score. We're here to talk about that game. I'm going to give a lot of my thoughts and what I saw as my viewpoint being there at the stadium yesterday. But before we do that, we were joined by head coach of the Panthers, Flynn Clayman, after the game. This is what he had to say.
Always a pleasure to be joined on the Proud Panthers podcast by head coach of the Panthers, Flynn Clayman. Flynn, how are you?
Doing good. I'm happy to get that win and looking forward to playing Southern Illinois.
Yeah, it's good to have you guys back in action. It was a week between the Daytona tournament where you guys walked away as Boardwalk Battle champions, so congrats on that. But also, you're here after a little bit of a Thanksgiving break. How do you feel that the team handled being away from the court for a little bit of a stretch and getting going against Western today?
Yeah, overall, I thought the week was pretty good. I thought practices were pretty good. I thought our preparation was pretty good. I just think when you take that amount of time off games, sometimes you're a little rusty in the first half. But we had to figure that part out. There's really no excuses for it. Now we came together and managed to have a lead at halftime, which I love seeing that. And then we responded in the second half with better defensive effort.
I looked down through this box score today, and you're shooting plus 70% from the floor, I think from both field goal and three-point range. You guys didn't get out-rebounded, so you won that matchup as well. I think steals was coming along in the second half. So it's hard for me to look at the statistics and say, man, where do you find something to nitpick other than maybe the turnovers? Is that where you see things after this game?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, we could have gotten more offensive rebounds, but we didn't miss that many shots. So I wasn't too worried about our offensive rebounding effort. If we didn't have uncharacteristic amount of turnovers, we came into the game second in the country, in terms of not turning the ball over. And, we've probably dropped a bit, after today. And a lot of those I felt were unforced, careless, little sloppy things like we talked about when you come off a break. But that's a big thing for us is to win that battle. And we were relatively close to even for most of that game. We kind of pulled away towards the end. Don't have the stats right in front of me yet, but that was a clear reason why they were right in the game in the first half, even with us shooting so well.
One of the things about this Western team that Kraft shows is a lot of backdoor kind of action and cuts that if you're not ready for that, it can be a little bit of a difficult. So do you feel like seeing that out of this Western team will help you guys again, just as you guys continue to work and refine the defensive side of things?
Yeah. I mean, if you're trying to attack a defense like ours, cutting is an important aspect to it. I don't think teams have exploited that enough up to this point. They did. We talked about it at halftime. We got it fixed, but that's definitely something that we always got to be ready for with our style of defense.
Well, coming up Wednesday night, now we have another really good mid-major opponent coming in, Southern Illinois. What are you seeing for that game?
Man, we need this place packed. We need it rocking. This is a huge deal for us. This is a program that's been to Sweet 16s, if not Elite 8s. They may have been to. I mean, this is one of the nationally prominent mid-major programs. They're off to a pretty good start this year. They're one of the top teams in the Missouri Valley. They definitely upgraded their team from last year, the team that we beat. They're athletic. They're physical. It's going to take everything we got to get that W.
Well, thank you so much, Coach, for taking the time to join us after today's win, and congrats.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Happy holidays.
You may have heard there, Coach Clayman had said that he didn't have stats in hand, and just a random kind of funky aside from their game against Western Carolina yesterday is that the points for a period of time on just the back end statistics side was actually off by 2 points. It was 95-73 as opposed to 93-73. And so there was a lot of, we'll say, scrambling around by the statistical folks to try to get everything together. And so as I hopped on a quick Proud Spaces that inevitably failed again, so we got to come up with a whole new plan for that component of what we try to do here as a part of Proud Sports. But as I hopped on that, there was some different discrepancies that were all the way settled yet. Cameron Fletcher, for instance, I didn't realize until a day later that he actually did end up with a double-double in that game. And so we'll get to some other things that kind of came out of that, but I know Coach Clayman was eager, just like myself, to actually get a score sheet in hand after that game. And so we could get a little bit more clarity of what we did just actually see. And I have some things on Southern Illinois too. Like, actually, here's a tease for you. My gaming of long ago that did include college basketball video games, I had some familiarity myself with Southern Illinois. So we'll come back to that here in just a few minutes. But High Point's win against the Catamounts yesterday at the Quabain Center, a team that, if you read our Know the Foe Toothsayer article on proudsports.com, you would have seen that we have a lot of familiarity with playing Western Carolina. I've said myself, as part of the Proud Panthers podcast before the season, and anytime I can re-mention it, I will. I always like when fellow North Carolina teams, because there's so many in Division I basketball, I really like when they find ways to schedule one another. So, for instance, Western Carolina played UNC Asheville a couple of games before they played High Point. High Point has played Western Carolina. They had the exhibition, obviously, with UNC Wilmington. We've got a game coming up against App State. NCA&T was an opponent that we played. So I like all the different ways that we try to schedule opponents within the same state borders, because it gives fans a unique opportunity to not have crazy amounts of travel, especially at the mid-major levels, and opportunities for fans to also cross over. So maybe you had a family member that actually went to Western Carolina, and we can have a little bit of bragging rights and some junk talk going on there around the Thanksgiving table that was just not too long ago. So I appreciated them having this scheduled, and I hope that we will continue to schedule fellow North Carolina teams. I would really like to see a Wake Forest, an NC State, a Duke, or a UNC man up and schedule our High Point team. So hopefully that would happen in years to come. This game started off really fast, actually. The first thought is, we've been on break from our Boardwalk Battle championship win in Daytona, had a full week where we didn't have any games on the schedule for our High Point team. Got to travel back to North Carolina. I know Thanksgiving meals were had in there, and that holiday was right stuck there in the middle. And so the thought is, well, might be a little sluggish coming out. Might have a hard time finding the range, shooting, getting the offense going. And I tell you, as somebody there in the Quabain Center, our High Point team didn't really seem that way. Now, before the game, I was down in the tunnels and the team was walking out to the floor. I felt like they looked a little sluggish. They looked like they didn't have a ton of high energy. But that's not really the way that I perceived the game going at any point for our High Point team. Honestly, for either team in the first half, both teams had very high and elite level shooting in the first half. Both teams, from field goal range, but also three-point range, held high shooting numbers, both over 50%. I thought both teams found ways to score the way they like to. You heard me with Coach Klayman mention the backdoor cuts that Tim Kraft likes to use when he was with Gardner-Webb and now with Western Carolina, and they definitely did a lot of that. With Marcus Kell, Western Carolina's best player, he found ways to score. And they ended up winning points in the paint by getting him in very easy, close rim shots to convert off of. But I also thought that High Point spread out Western Carolina pretty good, moved the ball well. When they had chances to get out and run, they did do that. So both teams were effective at the start of the game and scoring the ways they really like to do that. It wasn't like either team came out sluggish. The caliber of basketball being played was good. Now, the officiating crew had a tight whistle in that first half, so there was a lot of dead ball stoppages for that reason. So High Point having a 2-point lead at halftime for this game, a lot of people, if you weren't there, probably are thinking, well, they won this by 20. They were only up by 2 at half. And honestly, by even being there, High Point had to defend and stop Western Carolina 2 or 3 possessions in a row at the end of the half, plus hit a couple of last minute or two 3-pointers to get that lead. And the perception probably is, well, that is because High Point came out slow and sluggish. I don't really feel that way about it. I just felt like there was hard things to find to nitpick either team off of and say, hey, that team did too much of this, and so that's why they don't have a lead at the half, or vice versa. They both were just playing their game. And really what changed it over the course of the rest of the game in the second half was that High Point did turn up their shooting again in the second half, and Western kind of dropped those numbers off. But also, in a more in-depth look at it, I feel like in the first half, High Point wasn't able to get the deflections that they really like to get. They weren't able to get out and run as much, and so they couldn't get the stops and force short possessions for Western Carolina, because it's a possession game for the Catamounts. They really like to slow you down and burn things as opposed to high pace, high tempo, high energy, up and down. In the second half, High Point was able to convert in different ways and ended up running away with this win. And all in all, again, hard things for me as a High Point Panthers fan a day later to look back on and be like, yeah, that was bad. People I've seen say that our defense may have not been that good. I think that we would all say we would like to see the steals numbers where they were against some of the opponents earlier this season. Furman and Jacksonville, some of these games earlier in the year where we were forcing 20 turnovers, that's unheard of. That's a pace and a clip that it's hard to repeat. But they did force Western at the end of this, believe it or not, to 19. So it's still like they did their job, maybe at a more average level as opposed to just elite, above average, out of this world type mark. Rebounds wise, that was a component to our defensive side, maybe, that High Point Panthers fans has looked at this year and said, yeah, we got to improve that. If we're gonna win the way we would like to, we can't give up all these offensive rebounds. Well, High Point yesterday only gave up 9. I mean, that's still a little high, but all in all, 29-29 total rebounds for both of the teams, which really isn't a high number either, because that just goes to show you, as Coach Clayman said, that both teams are making shots. High Point, off of turnovers, scored 29 points. So they're getting out off of those turnovers that they forced and converting on the other end. Like I said, I didn't see anything from this game defensively that I again say, oh man, that is a rough look. I think it looked like we were playing the solid defense that we need to play. Otherwise, from this game, where else could we nitpick? Well, for me, this is where I saw the outlier. Turnovers, protecting the ball. I think yesterday, if anything, if I had to look down through all the stats, myself taking in the game, what is wrong? Where could we improve? Where do we need to be better? Really, the only thing for me that comes to mind is protecting the ball and taking advantage of some careless opportunities against Western Carolina. And I actually saw that 2 of our best players on the team had 9 of the team's total turnovers, and that's Owen Aquino and Cameron Fletcher. And those 2 guys, I love the 2 of them on the floor at the same time. And the reason why I feel like sometimes they might be the highlighted individuals of having some of those turnovers is also to the benefit of how our offense flows from time to time. So it could be a detriment at times, but it could also be a benefit. And that is that those 2 will try to make some plays and look and find other people on the floor. I will continue to share this with you. Owen Aquino having a double-double yesterday where he, again, scores 22 points. I should say Cameron Fletcher. I think I said Owen. We're going to get to Owen in a second. But Cameron Fletcher, I'll continue to say, a game where he had 22 points, 10 of 15 shooting, did have a couple of three-pointers, ended up having that double-double that I mentioned where he got the 10 rebounds. I genuinely don't know how he does it. Back to the point of him trying to find others and get others involved, I don't feel like the offense has to run through him. When you look at a box score after the game, and he, I would say, is our most talented player. I've held that as my opinion. Our second best player, in my opinion, right now is Terry Anderson. And if you've been a Proud Panthers listener, you've kind of heard me talk about his transition and journey from last season to this season. And so maybe we'll talk a little bit more about him again today as well. But Cam Fletcher is our most talented player. And you would think that the offense is just geared totally all the time. We got to run it through him. I don't feel that way when I'm watching High Point play. It honestly feels like there's a great spread, and the stats do somewhat back that up. When you have 4 to 5 players in double figures on any given night, that backs up that it's not like we're just feeding Cam the entire time. So him and Owen trying to get others involved and make some high-level plays from time to time will result occasionally in some lost possessions, turning the ball over. So if there was anything a day later or when I was watching that game that I could go back and be like, man, we got to tighten that up just a little bit, it would be the possession game. And as I said, Owen and Cameron Fletcher, they had 9 of those turnovers. Now, Owen has had a tough go of late, and I think he would say the same thing. And we saw that Caden Miller was the first nod as his replacement off the bench yesterday, which I, again, had also detailed a little bit of my thoughts and feelings on needing somebody when we need to spell an Owen or a Cam Fletcher or a Terry Anderson. Who's going to be the next guy up at bat that will come in and just hold serve? They don't have to do anything crazy flashy. They don't have to do anything remarkable. They really just need to be out there and defend well, be in the right spots to run and flow the offense and get the rebounds that we talked about before. I think Caden Miller, again, did that yesterday. As a freshman would, I recall a possession in the second half where he got in rhythm, if you will, into the lane, attempted kind of a difficult jump hook shot that maybe he'll develop after some time. This one was heavy-handed, bricked off the back, and I remember seeing some of the coaching staff kind of go to Caden and say, hey, let's rethink what we might be doing in those types of possessions. While I don't think it was a terrible choice of shot, I just think at that time in the game, he needs to be understanding of time, place, where am I at, what do I need to be doing here? And they're still teaching him, they're coaching him that. But aside from that, I think Caden came in and did what he had to do. So Owen having somebody like that he can trust to spell him, give him a bit of a rest, and help him work through some of the difficult game stretch that he's had of late is a good, solid thing to see. And I still think Yusuf could be that guy. I still think J.I. could be that guy. It may be very fluid and rotating to see who actually responds well. Right now, I think Caden is doing what he has to do. But back to Owen. Owen did play a good all-around game yesterday. For the time that he was out there, for him to have 7 points, 6 rebounds, an assist, a steal, a couple of blocks, shots at times, And strangely enough, a couple of those blocks didn't show up on the actual statistical sheet, which is strange because I know I saw him swat shots that maybe they were called passes and deflections, whatever that looks like. But that's a solid game for him. So I'm glad to see that he's coming back around. I would say in a couple of games before, probably the prior 2 to 4, I should say, games, he's probably not performed to the level that he would like to be at. And I know that the team would need him to be at as well. My last nod of kind of the players and what was happening yesterday goes to Terry Anderson. I said that we would probably circle back to him, and I want to do that again because Terry Anderson is our second best player on the team right now, in my opinion. The level of effort that he is showing is superior to his fellow teammates right now. And that's not to say that the other teammates are doing anything particularly wrong or not showing enough effort. It's just that Terry has come out like a bat out of hell this season and is making it his mission, it seems like, to perform at a level where he gets some recognition, probably because I know that's a driving force for him. B, that he wills and drives the team to win, because I've also seen that in practices when you would think it's not like things are official or that they really count at this moment. He doesn't care. He wants to win. And having the 16 points that he had on 5 of 5 shooting, 1 of 1 from 3-point range, with the 6 rebounds to go along with it, 3 steals, running up and down the floor. This guy is playing very good basketball. And to recall where he was a season ago till this season, it's a big transformation. You know, it's funny. I had someone yesterday prior to this game with Western Carolina ask me, "Hey, Steven, who's the best player on our team right now?" And I follow that up with a question. My question is, are we talking about just pure talent, or are we talking about when the lights come on that they're doing what they have to do? Because everybody always has that question if they haven't watched a ton of whatever team it is. Like, for instance, Southern Illinois, their best player, last name's House. You see that, you look it up. That's just what I can tell. And so everyone is always curious about that. And after they said, well, how about both levels? Well, I've already said it here today. From just a pure talent standpoint, Cameron Fletcher's talent is immense. It's very good. Being able to spring off of 2 feet, have your face looking at the rim, is not something that everybody can do. And Cam Fletcher, as I've also tried to verbalize, it feels like for the past 4 to 5 games and outings, when you end up looking back at a box score and you say, well, geez, Cam had 20 points again, and we're not just force feeding him. That means that he's just a talented guy. He's getting others involved. And when he gets his opportunities, he takes advantage. So from pure talent, that's my answer. It's Cam Fletcher. But when the lights come on and we need something to happen and all eyes and focus are out there, and we're talking A to Z points of the game, not just points or not just rebounds or not just steals, not just one section category, I'll say Terry Anderson is the best player right now on High Point's team. Doesn't matter when it's all sliced and chopped down. We don't need necessarily a best player, but I have to acknowledge both of those guys' performances of late because they've both been very good and very well done. So High Point got that 20-point win, moved to 7-1 on the season, 2-0 against Southern Conference opponents. They'll have another one coming up, as I already mentioned, against App State. So hopefully we'll stay perfect against that league. But coming up on Wednesday night, we also have a big game against Southern Illinois. And I promised you a little side story that is just very strange. But as somebody born and raised in High Point, North Carolina, and somebody that grew up loving video games, part of the pure joy and entertainment, and gamers could tell you this, is taking a team, especially in collegiate sports, whether it be football or basketball games, taking a collegiate team that isn't the highest Power 5 school, isn't the highest level, the biggest brand name in the country, and trying to develop them into a winning program is some of the best entertainment I ever had playing video games. I was more of a sports video game guy and less so of a first-person shooter or something like that. And so for sports video games, especially at the college level, college basketball, I wanted to take a team that not many people probably had heard of, develop players, recruit players, get them into the NCAA tournament, try to get to a Sweet 16 or a Final Four, so on and so forth. And strangely enough, High Point, North Carolina kid here picks Southern Illinois, the Salukis, out of the Missouri Valley Conference. So I do have some experience with them. If that's a reach, so be it. What I can tell you from following them from afar is that on the mid-major level, they're out of a great conference, and they are a team that, to Coach Clayman's point in our earlier interview, they've won their league. They've been to some NCAA tournaments. And looking at them coming into this game for Wednesday night, just record-wise at 4-4, you could say, that doesn't sound that good until you actually start looking at it. And in all of their losses, except for one, their most recent loss was against Memphis this last week before Thanksgiving on Wednesday. They lost 74-58 to the Memphis Tigers. But aside from that one outing, all their other losses were within 10 points. All of High Point's wins have been 10-plus points. But for the Salukis, they've had close losses against some pretty solid teams. They did also lose to UAB, the one loss on High Point's record so far this year. So this team is not somebody that you can toy around with and play with. And High Point's coach Clayman, with members of the media after last night's game, did say that if we start the way that we started against Western Carolina, then we may be in some trouble. Now, I didn't necessarily see that we started in some kind of sluggish or concerning way. I really just felt like both teams were firing on all cylinders with the way they needed to, and so that's why it was such a close game at halftime. But I think the point remains the same. Southern Illinois is not a team that you can just roll out of bed and say, hey, we're going to win. And coming into this season, there were 3 of those matchups non-conference-wise for me that I had already circled and said, hey, these are important. The first of which was the Furman opening game for a lot of different reasons. Coach Clayman's first game, it's a game that was part of a special exhibition, if you will, the 12 hours coverage of college basketball for the field of 68. And it was at a neutral site against another SoCon team that from last year had a lot of returners, a lot of pieces. I mean, we could go on and on. We've talked about Furman and why that was an important game. The other matchup was UAB, and we just said that was our lone loss and a reason why I had looked at it ahead of time saying, hey, that's one we got to be focused in on. For me, that third one of really the top 3. Now, there's others, NJIT, I should say, coming up after Southern Illinois. They've had a decent season so far. App State, I mentioned them now a few different times. When we play them in a neutral site in Hickory, that's going to be a good game. But this one on Wednesday night, I feel like is important. It is key. Again, a team, when we're talking about KenPom rankings, trying to stay building off of our wins that we've already had, It's at home inside the Quabain Center. I really feel like we need to take advantage. It's much like playing UAB inside the Quabain Center last season, American inside the Quabain Center last season. Just like we really needed to see us beat those two teams as a good, solid resume builder, this game against Southern Illinois, to me, is another one of those. And I feel like, be competitive in that game, play at the level that we need to play to be successful. We can score against Western Carolina. Rebounds, if we can end up 50-50, splitting that with Southern Illinois, I think we'll be okay, because they have a couple of brothers. I think it's a Ligbe brothers, that young, aggressive, down low. Cade Miller might have to just fill in, like I said, to help out Owen. I think also getting the deflections, causing some turnovers, getting out on the fast break, I think that's going to be key. And if we can have Chase Johnson, Braden Hassan, Cam Fletcher knock down some of those stretch threes to really get a packed defense from Southern Illinois to space out, I think that'll be a key and important as well. So we'll see how that goes on Wednesday night. We'll have a Toothsayer coming up on our website, ProudSports.com. And we can't wait to review that game, have more words from Coach Klayman as well, again, here on the Proud Panthers podcast.
Talk like a king.